this is the part 2 to our webinar, Appraise-It Pro Tips and Tricks. This is part 2 to the original one, which is the part 1, which is Introduction to Appraise-It Pro. So if you have not seen the Introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar yet, I would recommend that you go ahead and go to our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/josephREP, and take a look at that first. And then you can come back and watch this when we do archive these, so it will be available to you. If you're watching live, there will be chat available on the right-hand side of the screen. You can also make the video larger, put it into theater mode by using the little elongated rectangle that will be in the lower right-hand corner of the video. Click on that. It'll expand the video out, and then it will move the chat down to the bottom. Or you can make it full screen with the little bracket icon. If you do make it full screen, though, you will lose the chat. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're watching this webinar after the fact, you can simply go to, you can email us if you want to ask any questions, because you're not going to have the chat available to you. So just email training@sfrep.com. We will be happy. I'll be happy to answer any questions related to any of this stuff that you might have. So with all of that being said, I think that covers everything. So we'll go ahead and let's take a look at Appraise-It Pro. So we're going to crank it up. Now you're not going to see the splash screen for Appraise-It Pro because that's going to come up on my other monitor, but you will see it here. So this is where we're going to go ahead and get started with Appraise-It Pro. Now the first thing I want to do, the first thing I want to show you, I'm just going to use a blank appraisal. So I'm just going to come up here to the 1004, which is under frequently used now. And here we go. So the way that this works, the first thing I want to show you is going to be the kind of magical shrinking text. It's one of my favorite features of Appraise-It Pro. Probably the easiest place to show this would be in the city field. So in the city field, I have more than enough space to type out Charles. As a matter of fact, I can probably get 2 in there. But I'm not going to get 3 in there. You can see I'm going to run out of space if I try to put 3 in there. But if I do, you'll notice that the text is automatically going to shrink down so that it can fit it in there. Now, it's only going to go so far. You can see that if I try to put 4 in there, it gets too small. There is a limit to it, and then it starts going off the end of the field. Now, in a city field, this can be marginally useful, especially if you're a really long city. But where this feature really comes into its own is if you are in a multi-line field. So let's say something like down here, you can kind of tell that if you were to type out, a couple of sentences here, there's more stuff to be able to shrink down. So instead of being able to get 2 extra words in there, you could actually get an extra sentence or 2 in there. So the more space that you're shrinking down, the more you're going to be able to add in there. So this can be really helpful in avoiding having to flip over to extended comments or something like that. Now, a lot of people, and let me just fix this. There we go. By the way, if you don't know, there is a little icon over here. So if you want a little bit of extra room, there's this little up arrow here. If you click on that, that's going to collapse the menus down until you need them. So if you want to see the menu at all time, you just click on that little button right there. And if you're wondering, this right here is to send feedback. This is not for getting tech support. It's just for sending feedback about Appraise-It Pro or anything else having to do with the company. The next thing that I get asked a lot is, how do you get information from one report to another? So there's 2 main ways you can do this. You can either open up that other report, because you can have as many instances of Appraise-It Pro open at a time. So you could just open up another instance of Appraise-It Pro and open up another report and simply copy and paste information between the 2. But the other thing you can do is you can do an import. So those of you who used Appraise-It Classic, you will be very familiar with this process, but it is much easier in Appraise-It Pro. Now there's 2 ways you can do an import. You can come over here to Home. Oops, there we go. You can come over here to Home, and you can click on here to import forms. This will allow you to import forms, addenda, major forms, minor forms, whatever. If you do it from here, though, you have to actually browse to that particular location. The way I like to do it is to come over back here to the Help menu, and then come down here to Search, just like we're doing a regular search. And we'll just do a search now. I recently reinstalled everything in Appraise-It Pro from scratch, so I don't have any search when I click on search, there's nothing in my database at the moment. But if you do your search, you find what you're looking for. You can either right click on it in the grid here, or you can select it by single clicking on it and coming down here and clicking on import forms or import comps. It does the same thing in both places. The big difference here is that you can either search for what you're looking for your target report, or the report you want to get information from, or you can just browse to it. Browsing, if you got thousands and thousands of reports, is not really that easy of something to do. So I recommend coming in here to the search. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can add photos in Appraise-It Pro. Most people will use the image manager or the comp manager, but you can also drag and drop photos as well. So let's see, the only photos I have with me right now on my desktop are, I do aviation photography as a hobby, so I'm going to pull these over here. So I've got these two photos here. There's this one right here, and there's this one right here. So I'm going to use these just as demo, just to kind of show you how this works. So a lot of people will use the image manager or comp manager, but there's one other way you can do this, and I think it's a really easy way, and that's by dragging and dropping your photos. So if I come over here to a photo addenda, let's just go to listing comps 1 through 3. Oh, excuse me. Let's go to the photo page. So we're going to do general photos 3 per page, or we can do general photos 6 per page. I'm just going to select general photos 3 per page. And just like in Appraise-It Classic, I can just double click here and I can browse to the photos, or I can right click and paste and copy and paste in there. But what I like to do is just simply drag and drop. So right now I have these over here on my desktop, but if they were in a folder or even in another program, I can do the same thing, because most photo programs do support dragging and dropping. So if you have a favorite photo program that you use to grab all the photos off of your camera or something like that, you can use it. And all you got to do is click and drag it directly into Appraise-It Pro. Now, the aspect ratio here is a little bit different, so it's squishing them. Now I can take care of that by doing some editing here, and then there's also a setting in settings where you can tell it not to squish, not to expand to fit. But if you set your photo in your camera, if you set it to, I think it's 3:2 aspect ratio, but our tech support will know for sure. I think it's like 3:2. Then this will actually come out non-squished. But it's because they're 3:5, and that's just the way that the aspect ratio works out. So dragging and dropping photos, really easy way to put photos into your report. Sometimes when I'm doing the Introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar, I forget to show you guys how to create a template. So I'm just going to go over it real quick. It is super, super simple to do. So templates replace the skeletons that were in Appraise-It Classic. If you're coming over from another software vendor like a la mode or ACI, you'll be very familiar with the concept of a template. It's the same in Appraise-It Pro as it is in any other software. Okay, so essentially what a template is it is a starting point for a brand new appraisal. So essentially it's basically just a regular report that's been promoted to template status. Okay, so this is a way that you can start a report and have a bunch of stuff already filled out and have the layout and everything created for you already. So what you'll want to do is either open up an existing file and then clear it out of what you don't want in there, the stuff that's specific to that particular report, or start with a blank report, get the layout and everything in the table of contents in the report panel the way you want it, add additional photos or images. If you're in, I think, North Carolina and Missouri, you're required to put your seal, a printed version of your seal on the report. So go ahead and get that in there. Put other information, I don't know if it's a scan of your license or your insurance, whatever it is. Get all that stuff squared away the way you want it, the way you want to start an appraisal. And then you just simply come over here to Home, go to Save As, and then instead of Save as Report, you're just going to simply say Save as Template. So I'm going to save as a template. We're going to call this one Charlotte. So this will be just a general report. I'll start all appraisal reports in Charlotte under. We click on Save. Now I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this particular report. Come over here to New. I'm going to open up a 1004, and I'm just going to single click here. If I double click, it's just going to open up the default template. But if I single click, I can come over here to the template panel right here and I can select Charlotte. And there we go. There's my template for Charlotte. So dealing with templates, creating templates, using them, super easy in Appraise-It Pro. Now let's go ahead and close out of this. No, we'll come over here to open, and I think that Pro Sample is still in here. Yes, it is. Okay, cool. So this is how I can show you how you can copy comps, move comps around, things like that. Now you can still do this in the comp manager in Appraise-It Pro. And if you're moving over from Appraise-It Classic, the comp manager in Appraise-It Pro is the same as it is in Classic. So I generally don't go over it. If you have never used the comp manager and you want to learn how to use it, if you go to our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/sfrep, there are a couple of videos that we have on how to use comp manager. You can also go to the knowledge base, which is support.sfrep.com will take you to our knowledge base, and you can search for that video there. So anyway, if you need to know how to use that, you can also contact me, training@sfrep.com. I'll be happy to show you how that works. But in the meantime, if you need to move something around in Appraise-It Pro, clear comps, copy comps, things like that, it's real easy to do. All you have to do is right-click in the comp in question. And it doesn't matter where you right-click, as long as it's in the comp somewhere. So we'll right-click here. And in this case, I am going to clear a comp. Say yes, and it clears the comp. And not only does it clear the comp data, it's also clearing the photos for that as well. So if I go to subject photos, exterior 3x, no, wait, that's not what I want. I want sales comp photos 1 through 3. So I cleared comp number 2. There you go. Comp number 2 is clear. Now, maybe I want to move comp number 3 over to comp number 2. So what I can do is come over to comp number 3. I can right click and I can say cut comp. Now it's disappeared, but it's also put that into the clipboard. And now I can come over here and I can right click, say paste comp. Boom, there it is. So just a couple of clicks, you can move things around, clear them, copy them. If I want to copy this one, right click, copy, right click, paste, and boom. Now comp number 2 is also comp number 3. And then you can make some changes as needed, like specifically to the address. So that's how you can move your comps around, clear them, etc. I'm going down a list here, and some of these I'm going to skip over just because for time's sake, and they're not that interesting. So I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. Customizing searches. So I'm going to come back over here to the file menu, and we're going to come down here to search. Now, in the introduction to Appraise-It Pro, I do show you how you can do a search. Real simple. It's easy concept. The more information you fill out here, the more targeted your search results are going to be. But let's say that some of these you never use. Let's say you are only licensed in one state. Let's say you're licensed in North Carolina. Well, you're never going to need to be actually searching by state. So maybe you just want to get rid of that. So you can click on the little trash can icon, say yes, and get rid of state. Or let's say you're never going to be searching by order number. Well, what you can do is if you don't need if you don't ever need to search by order number, but you want to search by something else, what you can do is use the little pull down menu here. And you can say, well, instead of order number, I want to do owner name. And then you can add that in. Now, let's say you get licensed in South Carolina as well as North Carolina. Charlotte is right on the border, so that happens a lot around here. So I want to add state back in. So all you got to do is come over here to add field, use this pull down. They're all in alphabetical order. We're going to find state. And now we've added state back in. But, oops, I didn't select it right. There we go, state. But now state's way down here and it should be over here. So what I can use are these little up and down arrows. And we'll move it up so that it is before zip code. So now we got county, city, state, zip. There we go. That's exactly what I wanted. Real simple. And you can have as many or as few search criteria on here as possible. Also, when you do a search and it shows up here in the grid, remember that you can scroll out here to the right-hand side to see all the data that is kept about that particular address. And remember that you don't have to manage this database. It's done for you automatically. Every time you save a report, that information gets indexed and it gets updated and added to the database for you automatically. In addition to that search area, there is a cool feature that is new to Appraise-It Pro called the work file. Now, this is a little bit different than I think it's implemented in an a la mode. I think it's similar to the way it's done in ACI, but the way that we do a work file is that we just simply create a folder in Windows that will be associated with this particular address, okay? So all you have to do is whenever you have an address, or if you're over here in the actual report to create a work file, you can just come over here to open work file. And what it will do is it will create in the My Appraise-It Data work file folder, it will create a folder that has the same name as that particular address. Okay, so what you can do is simply go back to there, or you can just click on the work file button and it will automatically open up that particular folder. What this folder is, it's just a regular Windows folder. You can put, you know, PDFs or images or whatever you want in there. And what it's basically for is if you want to include something with the report, file it away with the report, but you don't want to send it to the lender. So maybe some extra photos, maybe some extra PDFs, stuff that might come in handy if you get questioned on your valuation way down the road, or if you just need to refresh your memory about a certain thing, you can put notes in there. I know a lot of appraisers will take handwritten notes while they're in the field and then scan those notes in or take photos of them and then just dump them into the work file so that they have that information later on so they can refresh their memory on what their thinking was when they were out in the field. So that's the work file. It is available in the home menu, and if you actually search for an address, you can select that address and then click on Open Work File to open it from there as well. Now, as I show you in the Introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar, we have 4 main panels here: Report, Validator, Responses, and Format. There's also a hidden one here for help if we go over that as well. But what if you want to have these kind of in a different way? Maybe you are on a lower resolution screen and it's more important that you have this. Appraise-It Pro is built for a 1080p or higher screen. So if you got like a 720p screen because you're on a laptop or something like that, or you're on a small TV or something like that, you may need some extra real estate here so you can see things a lot better. So one of the things you can do is you can move these panels around. So let's say if I want to have these panels, maybe I want to stack them on another monitor that I have. I can just click and drag them out and then move them over to another monitor. Or I can stack them all together and tab them out. And that's one of my favorite things to do. So what I can do is just simply click and drag it over here and this little wheel will show up. And one in the middle of the wheel, see there's like this little tab looking icon. So if I click on that, now what it's going to do is it's going to tab these all into this particular panel. So you get one big panel and everything is tabbed down here at the bottom. Now, if you mess this up or you can't figure this out, just call our tech support. They'll show you how to do it. But now you've got a lot more information and a lot more space to work with over in the right-hand side. So if you're on a 720p screen, this can make things a lot easier for you to read. Now, if you mess this up while you're trying this, all you got to do is come over here to View, and then select Reset to Default, say yes, and it's going to put everything back the way it was. So play around with this, knowing that if you mess something up, all you got to do is click on that Reset to Default, and it'll put back everything the way it was. You can also adjust the zoom level of the editing area. So right now it's set to fit, but what I can do is I can use this slider down here in the lower right-hand corner. I can either slide it or I can use these little plus and minuses to make things bigger. So I'm going to make things a little bit bigger there. I can back off as well. And if I back off enough, I actually can see multiple pages. So I can do kind of a side-by-side view here. But maybe I'm having problems seeing stuff. So I'm going to zoom in. Now, of course, the trade-off here is that you're not going to be able to see the entire screen from left to right, the entire form. So you might have to move around a little bit, but makes things a lot easier to see. And then if you ever want to put it back the way it was, just click on the number here, check fit to width, say okay, and now it's going to put it back the way it was, or you can do the reset to default, does the same thing. Now you may have noticed when I was opening up Addenda, things were tabbing up here at the top. That's because we have this tabbed interface up here. It's very similar to the way it is in a web browser. So I can move these around if I want. So I can click and drag flood map over here to where location map is, or vice versa. And if I want, I can click and drag the tab out and I can put it on a different monitor if I want to. Or once it's dragged out, I can drag the tab and pop it right back in and now it's in here. And then if I don't need that, if I don't need to view that tab anymore, all I have to do is click on the X and it gets rid of it. It doesn't remove it from the report, just means that I'm not looking at that tab any longer. And once again, if you mess something up, always just come to view, reset the default, real simple. Couple of little things that can just save you a little bit of money, a little bit of time. Let me open up my main report there again. Let's say that I need to put a date in here. Of course, I can just look at the clock and I can type out 07/20/23, or I can come up here to insert date and just say today, and it will put that form, it'll put the date in there, and it will always be in UAD format. So instead of having to type that out, I can just hit that today button and it's going to pop today's date in there and put it in the proper format. Or I can just use, like I can say the 27th next Thursday, pop that in there and it's going to put it in proper UAD formatting. Not a huge deal, but it can save you a little bit of time if you use that. We also have a button, similar button for census tract. So if the census tract here is not in there, what I can do is instead of having to go and look it up, I can come over here to services. Now remember, tools are local programs, local tool programs on my computer that are independent of the internet to help me in doing a report. Services are helper programs that are connected to the internet. They're web-based programs. So under services, I go to Get Census Tract, press that button. That's the correct address. I'm going to hit Get Census Tract, and boom, pops the census tract in there. And it actually goes out to the government. I think is it FEMA who keeps track of that? But it goes out, or the Census Bureau, somebody goes out to one of their servers, the U.S. government servers, grabs the census tract and then pops it in for you. So you always know it's going to be accurate. And then sometimes I do show you this occasionally in the intro, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you here now. We do go over the responses and how you use them. You can double click here. You can assign it an F key and just type that F key. Or you can just start typing something like CH and it's going to type in Charlotte for you. There's one other way you can do this. You can hit F2 on your keyboard. Now, if you've been using Appraise-It Classic, this will be somewhat familiar with you, but it works a little bit different in Appraise-It Classic. You hit F2 and you are going to be presented with a menu, and then I can use my arrow keys to select the one I want, and then it'll pop it in there for you. That way you don't have to grab your mouse and do something manually with your mouse. You can just keep your hands on the keyboard, making things go a whole lot faster. Coming up on 25 minutes, so I'm going to speed through a couple of these and just, choose some highlights here. Already done that. This is one I definitely want to go over, and this is report security. Get questions on this quite a bit. So in Appraise-It Pro, so in Appraise-It Classic, for those of you who are using Classic, when you would sign the report, that would lock the report for editing, and you had to have a password to unlock it. That's great. It worked really well, but it was not truly secure. There was no encryption involved, and there were ways around it if you knew what you were doing. So we wanted to add true report security into Appraise-It Pro with military-grade encryption, and that's where we come to the secure report. Now, in Appraise-It Pro, if you sign the report, it does not do anything for security. You can still edit the report. All it does is it just places an image of your signature along with your signature details into the report. Doesn't have anything to do with security, so keep that in mind. Report security is where you want to add security. Now, if you are a single-person shop, or if you work for another company, but you're doing everything at home and you're not connected to a network, you're probably not going to use this too much. But if you're in a multi-person shop, you want to keep people out of your reports, you can secure the report. And here you can require a password to edit this report, require a password to open this report, or you can do both. So you can send a report to somebody and they'll be able to open it up in Appraise-It Pro, but they won't be able to edit it. Or you can have it be so that they have to enter a password to both view it and edit it. That's the most secure. That's like double encryption. So this will apply encryption to the file itself. So if you're going to be emailing this and you're really sensitive about security, you can require a password to open the report. And then what you're going to want to do is text the password that you set, because it can be different each time. Text the password that you set to the person you're sending it to. Don't send it along with the email. At the very least, send it in a separate email, okay? That way you don't have the password sitting there in the same email with the attachment. That's just completely, doing away with that security. So this does apply military grade encryption to your report, so it will be safe to send it to a colleague. Now, don't apply security to your report when you're ready to send it through a portal to a lender or an AMC, because then they're not going to be able to open it. And if you try to send them a password, you know that they're going to ignore that, and they're just going to kick back to you and be like, well, I can't open this report. So keep that in mind. Usually when you upload through a portal, it is going to be encrypted anyway. So you're safe in doing that. You're going to be on a secure encrypted connection. Most web connections are secure nowadays. Let's see. Real quickly, sometimes I mention this, sometimes I don't. I do go over the validator, but you need to make sure that you're using the proper rule set when you're doing validation, whether it be the real-time validation or the comprehensive validation that you do at the end of the report. So make sure you use this little pull down here. It is going to remember the last setting. So if the last report you did was an FHA, when you start a new report, it's going to be an FHA. So make sure that you switch this back to UCDP if it's just going to be a regular UAD report. The two rule sets are very, very similar to each other. And if you're halfway through the report, when you realize that you're using the wrong rule set, just change the rule set. It's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. But just remember when you do that last validation to double check that rule set to make sure you're using the right one. If you ever have a need to go back to Appraise-It Classic, if you know that you're going to be doing this when you start the report in Appraise-It Pro, or if you have an inkling that you might have to, then you may want to go ahead and engage Appraise-It Classic compatibility mode. And what that will do is it will turn off all of the fancy features in Appraise-It Pro that aren't available in Appraise-It Classic, so that you can easily, what's called backport, this report over to the older Appraise-It Classic. And then if you need to do that, make sure you have Appraise-It Classic compatibility on, and then you can go Appraise-It Classic export. If you don't do this, it's not the end of the world. Appraise-It Classic export is going to let you know what is not going to be included with the report when you backport it to Appraise-It Classic. But, if you're just starting out with Appraise-It Pro and you might have to send it back to Appraise-It Classic where you're comfortable to finish it out, you may want to start using Appraise-It Classic compatibility mode. It's going to turn off things like the automatic shrinking text. It's going to turn off a couple other like formatting things that just aren't available in Appraise-It Classic, including some addenda that just aren't available, some forms that just aren't available in Appraise-It Classic as well. All right. Let's see. We'll skip that. Just looking through some of this stuff. There is a scripting language in Appraise-It Pro, but it's not for the everyday user. If you have a programming background, you can go to api.sfrep.com. I'll show you that real quick. Here, let's pull this over here. api.sfrep.com. So this web page will, if you come over here to scripting API, it will teach you how the scripting language in Appraise-It Pro works. And it's very powerful. You can actually connect with, say, Excel and bring in information from Excel or other external programs. It also kind of teaches you how our COM API works. If you are not a programmer, this is not really going to be for you, but if you do have a program background, this is something you can use. And what I would recommend doing, if you do have a script, if you want Appraise-It Pro to do something very custom and you want to have a script created for you, you can contact our tech support. It's usually $50 an hour, but they can work with you on the price and figure out, what they would charge to do exactly what you're doing. So just keep that in mind. Just contact our tech support and they can actually make a script to make Appraise-It Pro behave in the way that you want it to. Now, the one last thing I do kind of want to show you guys, and then we'll open it up to questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and jump in on the live chat, or you can send an email to training@sfrep.com, but jump in on the live chat. Go ahead and put your questions in there right now, and I will go ahead and answer them here in just a moment. But the last thing I do want to show you is under support. A lot of people have been using either here or here the feedback to actually send in tech support requests. So you will eventually get to our tech support by doing that, but it's going to take a lot longer. It's going to have to be rerouted. So make sure if you do have email support that you want to do, just use under technical support in the support section, click on email. That will open up a support website that you can type in your email, and that'll send it, it'll blast an email to all the technicians, and then they will get back to you very shortly. And then also remember, the easiest way to get in touch with our tech support is through this chat button. You'll be able to get somebody pretty quickly for really simple things. Remember, one technician can only talk to one person on the phone at a time, but they can deal with multiple chats at a time. So you'll get an answer pretty quickly if you go in there via chat. Okay, so that's going to kind of wrap up what I wanted to really cover for this tips and tricks webinar. Also, I do want to point out all of our social medias over here on the right-hand side, including SFREP blog, our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube pages. We are going to be adding threads to this as well, which is kind of a Twitter competitor from Facebook, from Instagram. And we actually also need to add our Instagram account here as well. But one of the new things is this SFREP blog, so you can check that out. We post some pretty interesting articles over there. Free to use, free to subscribe. If you have any questions, please let me know now. Otherwise, you can send them to training@sfrep.com, and I will be happy to answer them for you. And if you go to our website, let me pull it up here, and I'll pull it over so you can see it here. So if you do go to our website, mouse over training, and then let's see here, mouse over training, and then go to training calendar, and you'll be able to see what our current schedule is. So this is the webinar we're on right now, Appraise-It Pro tips and tricks. The next webinar is going to be on Wednesday, the 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's going to be using Comp Manager. So remember, I told you about Comp Manager. If you've been wondering how Comp Manager works, go ahead and, on the morning of the 26th, you'll be given an email, and that'll tell you how to get into that particular webinar. And then we have, this is one of my favorites to do, buying a new computer. It's going to be August 1st at 1 p.m. This is where we kind of go over what computers are out there, what technology is out there for you to purchase, and kind of answer any questions that you might have. So I want to thank everybody for showing up and taking the time out of your day. Once again, if you have any questions for tech support, tech@sfrep.com. But if you need to ask me any questions, training@sfrep.com is the website you want to use. Thank you so much for showing up. I really appreciate it. I hope the weather is going nice where you are, because I know a lot of you guys have to be out in the heat doing inspections. I know it is no fun, so hopefully things will be cooling off soon. If you are going to be in Las Vegas for the Valuation Expo at the Mirage, I will be there. I'll be happy to see you there, answer any questions. And if you are going to be at Appraisal Summit at the Planet Hollywood, I'll also be there with our new CEO, Remington Jones. Wayne has been having some health issues, so he stepped back from the company, and we have a new CEO who's promoted from within, Remington Jones. He'll be there. He'll be happy to meet you, meet and greet, shake hands, and talk about the company. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you showing up, and I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks a lot.